Hi everyone, Jovian here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the moons of Jupiter from a couple of specific locations. But more importantly, we are now past the solar eclipse. I hope many of you got to see the solar eclipse yesterday. If you didn't get to see the solar eclipse, I hope you at least saw the Perseid meteor shower, which continued into the early hours of the morning after the night of the eclipse. If you didn't see the solar eclipse or the Perseid meteor shower, there is at least a lunar eclipse coming up on the 28th of August. So we have that coming up at the end of the month. And here we are just on the 15th in the morning for this close conjunction of Mercury and Jupiter. You can take a look at a couple of my previous videos if you would like to see more details of the recent solar eclipse. Our last video talked about the next lunar eclipse. We had recent videos on the Perseid meteor shower as well. But in today's video, we're going to be trying to catch an occultation of some of Jupiter's moons. But to do so, well, to start with, we're looking at the wrong date. Although the moons do look very close together here, from here in Ireland, they're practically obscured by the glow of sunrise, and they're only visible very early in the morning when they're close to the ground. We can get rid of the atmosphere and the ground here, although that does cause me to lose Jupiter. We'll snap back to Jupiter and snap back to Europa here. We will move backwards in time and see if we can get these moons to move in front of each other. It looks like Europa is moving in front of Io here. We'll take a closer look. Not quite. Of course, these moons, until we're zoomed in quite close, they do just look like colored blobs. We can see that Europa and Io are moving near each other, past each other here, but they're not occulting each other from this location. And it would be very difficult, given that these moons are so small and so far from us, to try and find the exact location on Earth just by hopping around using the map provided by Stellarium here. Just by hopping around, it would be difficult to find the exact locations where this should be visible. However, a helpful commenter has already found several locations, mostly in the Pacific, where an occultation of this kind will be visible. They have provided the dates and the locations. I am going to check if the actual city names provided are in Stellarium. As we learned from the solar eclipse videos, for example, when we were looking at Greenland and Iceland, there weren't that many towns available in Stellarium's map. However, when we were looking at Southern Europe, there was many cities and towns available. Here we are at the location that was specified by a helpful commenter. We're not yet at the correct date. So this is Avarua in Polynesia, in the Cook Islands specifically. And here we are looking at the sky with no atmosphere or ground, so let's fix that. And we're going to move forward to the 19th, which is the date I was told to look at. We're seeing the sun set over in the west there, so we'll come back to sunrise on the 19th. Because we are still looking for Jupiter and Jupiter's moons, we were seeing them at sunrise here in Ireland. That means they are going to be visible at sunrise from here in Avarua as well. So let's take a closer look here at Jupiter. And there are the moons. We'll move through a little bit of time here just to see. The ground gets in the way, so we must be moving in the wrong direction. And the sky is very bright. So we will get rid of the ground and the atmosphere. There they are again, and let's move through a little bit of time. Well, there's Io getting occulted by Jupiter at least, and popping out the other side. Oh, it seems we've moved a little too fast. Let's come back to the 19th. We can see a lot of these moons moving around each other, passing close to each other, but this, I think, is really what we want to see. So let's take a look at Europa here. We'll move through a little bit of time and get them moving back together. They are very close, but they're not completely occulting each other. So this is at least a close conjunction. However, at 1:30, yes, I think that this time might be too bright for them to be visible. And of course, there they are, high in the sky with the sun practically over in the west, because we are after midday. So let's move things back to sunrise and just see how they behave when they're actually visible. So we will come back to the earliest time where we can see them, which is just here, just as they come above the horizon. This is a time when they will be partially extincted by the atmosphere. So we'll take a close look here. We can see Io and Europa moving forward. The sun comes up, they're still visible for a while, and then they vanish. Of course, we wouldn't be able to see this with most telescopes simply because the light of the sun is too bright. You would damage your eyes and you would damage the eyepiece. But we can see Io disappearing behind Jupiter, and without the atmosphere or the ground, if we move a little further forward, we can see Europa and Io coming very, very close together. I think we have Europa just in front of Jupiter here as well, which is a nice thing to catch. But although they are moving close together, it's not a true occultation, and when they are at their closest together, they are very difficult, impossible to see to human eyes. Luckily, there are a few other locations that we have been suggested, so we will take a look at one of the alternatives. Thankfully, the names are working, otherwise I would have to type in the various different latitudes and longitudes. So here we are not in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, at the coast of Mauritania, right at the coast of West Africa here. So this is another location where we have been told to take a look for a different date. So firstly, we'll get back on the atmosphere and the ground to get our bearings, and we will travel forward to the 22nd. And presumably we're going to be still looking towards sunrise. Yep, Jupiter is still above the sun towards the east in the morning. Here we're very close to the equator, so this is a fantastic place in which to view Jupiter. We will come back to the very moment when it rises above the horizon, and we can see it getting fainter here due to atmospheric extinction. But if we take a closer look, well, there's Europa and Io really looking like they're on top of each other. We'll take an even closer look, and they are right next to each other in the sky. Moving forward, they do partially occult each other from this angle at this time, at a time where they are still visible through a telescope, where the sky isn't too bright. So this, well, we've only checked 2 locations so far, but this is the one getting my vote as the best. We can see Io and Europa slide past each other before the sky becomes too bright to observe them with a telescope, and while they are actually above the horizon. So here they are coming up and sliding past each other, so that does look good. Luckily, we have a couple of other locations to check, and the view may be even better from there. The view has gotten better so far. So here we go. We are now going back into the Pacific. Here we are in the Pacific in Melanesia. I believe these are the Solomon Islands off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Again, all of this information was given to me by a helpful commenter. I don't just know all of this stuff off the top of my head. We will go back to the east at morning time to see Jupiter above the horizon, and we will move forward again to the 26th. So there's Jupiter still nice and high above the horizon to the east. We're still fairly close to the equator here, certainly much closer than we are in Ireland. We'll move down until Jupiter is just getting extincted by the atmosphere, but not obscured by the ground. And taking a closer look, well, Io and Europa are definitely close together again. That's moving backwards in time. We want to move forwards in time so that these planets rise up and Io and Europa do seemingly overlap, at least through a low power telescope. Taking a closer look, and there we go, another occultation of Europa by Io. Partial, but still, Io is blocking out part of Europa here, and this is visible at just 6 o'clock in the morning from Honiara in Melanesia in the Solomon Islands, but this is a little bright. You would need protective equipment on your telescope to see this, so I'm very glad that I am getting to show you this here. I think that giving previews of what's coming up in the sky so that people can prepare themselves to go and see these things, that is good. But I also think that showing people things that they would otherwise not be able to see is good. So here we are in Polynesia, specifically in French Polynesia at Papeete. I assume this is Papeete and not Papeete or Papite, But again, I could be wrong. There are many languages in the Pacific. Many of them are related, but they are still all different languages. We've changed our location and we will see Jupiter above the sun in the morning. The later we move in August, the easier this will be to see, even for us here in Ireland. But we do still need to change the date moving forward to the 30th, which only brings Jupiter higher in the sky and easier to see. We'll move back so that Jupiter is just coming above the horizon, and we'll zoom in to see how those moons are behaving. So Europa and Io are already practically on top of each other. Let's take a closer look. They're not quite there yet. We'll move forward, and there we go. Europa occulting Io this time. Again, it's only partial, but now we've gotten to see it both ways around, with Io blocking Europa and here with Europa blocking Io. And just coming up to 5 o'clock in the morning, the sky is actually dark enough to point a telescope at this. Everything is so low in the sky here that you will need a clear horizon, but if you have one, we can see these things moving past each other comfortably for a while, at least up until about 5:30. We can see that the sky then is definitely getting too bright. We'll zoom back out. We can see some glow of morning twilight. And here we are coming up to 5:45. It's definitely too bright to use a telescope anymore. But you don't have to worry about using a telescope to see these occultations because you have already seen them here. If you are in the right location and you have a protected solar telescope perhaps, then maybe you will get a chance to see them. In all of those locations at least, you will get to see Jupiter in the morning at sunrise at the end of August. Indeed, we will here as well, though it will be a little bit more difficult. But even though those occultations are going to be impossible to see with the naked eye, you have gotten a preview of them here. So thank you to the commenter who let me know the dates and locations. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. If you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can read this information on my website, queevinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.